Good evening from Istanbul to all of you around the world who are watching the ceremony tonight. I'm Ece Dizdar. Welcome to the 12th International Hrant Dink Award ceremony, which we hold every year on Hrant Dink's birthday. We've been having the International Hrant Dink Award ceremony in Istanbul for 11 years now. This year, we're broadcasting from the 23.5 Hrant Dink Site of Memory. Pariyagak, Hünher Hatin, Ahlan wa Sahlan. Many thanks to Kudsi Erguner for his wonderful performance tonight. As the enchanting sound of his neigh echoes in Hrant Dink's office, it blended with the rhythm of installation by renowned artist Sakis. The 23.5 Hrant Dink Site of Memory, where we are for today's awards ceremony, opened its doors to visitors last year. Hrant Dink, editor-in-chief of the Armenian Turkish newspaper Agos, was assassinated in front of this building in 2007. The writings, stories and accounts at the memory site shed light on Hrant Dink's life and the universal values of democracy, human rights, justice and equality, which he always defended. The name 23.5 comes from an article of Hrant Dink entitled April 23.5. 24th of April is the commemoration day for Armenians all around the world, whereas April 23rd is the day on which the first national parliament in the Republic of Turkey was established, and it's a national holiday for children in Turkey. 23.5 is an invitation to everyone to build an alternative future where conflicts are overcome and children from all around the world come together. Throughout this evening, we'll be reaching out to you from various spots in 23.5 and honor the rights movements from all around the world. With the International Hrant Dink Award, we both remember Hrant Dink's life and human rights struggle, and we celebrate many people all around the globe working towards a world more free, just, and equal. With the International Hrant Dink Award, we honor people who work for a world free of discrimination, racism, and violence, take personal risks for their ideals, use the language of peace, and by doing so, inspire and encourage others. With this award, the Foundation aims to remind all of those who struggle for these ideals that their voices are heard, their works are visible, and that they're not alone, and also to encourage everyone to follow their ideals. With the award, which has been presented for the last 12 years, we thank those seeking equality and justice all over the world, embrace solidarity, and grow stronger together. Now, I'd like to give the floor to the chairman of the International Hrant Dink Award Committee, Ahmet İnsel.
Hrant'ın öldürülmesinin üzerinden 13 yıl geçti. O dönemden çok daha karanlık bir dönemdeyiz. Bir istibdat yönetimi altında endişeli maceralara sürüklenirken, dünyayı saran salgın hastalığın pençesinde büyük bir şok yaşıyoruz. Hrant'ın ölümünün ardından ihdas edilen Uluslararası Hrant Dink Ödülü'nün bu yıl 12.sini vermek üzere toplandık. Salgın hastalık nedeniyle sanal ortamda bu ortamın verdiği imkanlarla zenginleştirmeye çalışarak ödülü bu yıl düzenledik. Hrant Dink Ödülü bildiğiniz gibi insanlara mücadele etme yolunda ilham ve umut veren, ayrımcılıktan, ırkçılıktan, şiddetten arınmış, daha özgür ve adil bir dünya için uğraşan, bireysel risk alan, barış dilini kullanan kişi ve kurumlara verilir. Bu idealler uğruna mücadeleyi teşvik etmeyi amaçlar. Ödülün verilmeye başlandığı dönemden bugüne bu ideallerin ortak yaşamda egemen olması konusunda ne yazık ki çok yol alamadık. Hatta geriledik. Tam bu nedenle Hrant Dink Ödülü'nün veriliş amacını sahiplenmeye daha fazla ihtiyacımız var bugün. Ödül törenini özenle, özveriyle hazırlayan tüm arkadaşlarıma ve katılarak bizi onurlandıran hepinize Hrant Dink Vakfı ve Ödül Komitesi adına teşekkür ederim. Hoş geldiniz.
We will have many fine artists with us tonight, and we would like to express our sincere thanks to them. And we hope that the healing and uniting power of art will be an inspiration to everyone. Many thanks to Arto Tunçboyacıyan, who has been with us since the foundation was established. He has turned this evening into a celebration of music, and for years he has used his music to spread a life philosophy based on goodness. And now, Can Bonomo will join us and perform his music with the message of peace and humanity.
Bana yine çattı kör talih kahırla, İstanbul beni temiz hatırla. Ayrıştım çocukluktan bir sınırla, bin sabırla yine beni buldu. Zaten hep beni bulur. Ben karayım o kara, aman daha karam. Sözler hep uçup gider. Bir delik açtın şu kalbime, kanar yaram. Gözlerim açık gider. Ben karayım o kara, aman daha karam. Sözlere uçup gider. Bir delik açtın şu kalbime, kanar yaram. Gözlerim açık gider. Baban kimdi, yaşın kaç hatırla. El alem peşimizde satırla. Tükür bizi, tükür şehir içimizde. Çocuklarla yine beni buldu. Zaten hep beni bulur. Ben karayım o kara, aman daha karam. Sözlere uçup gider. Bir delik açtın şu kalbime, kanar yaram. Gözlerim açık gider. Ben karayım o kara, aman daha karam. Sözlere uçup gider. Bir delik açtın şu kalbime, sanma acıtık yolların uzun. Küçük, mutsuz musun? Bak oyuncaklar var önünde deste deste. Hevesle yanan mum sönmez güçsüz bir nefeste. Sen korkma, yeniden doğar güneş. Tut cebini de ne kaldıysa hatalarından. Koy kendi kendini kendi yerine. Korkarsan adım almaktan ya da tut giderinlere dalmaktan. Sen korkma, yeniden doğar güneş. Tut cebini de ne kaldıysa hatalarından. Koy kendi kendini kendi yerine. Korkarsan adım almaktan ya da tut giderinlere dalmaktan. Sen korkma, yeniden doğar güneş. Elinden tutan ya da biraz tütün. Gülüşlerin paramparça, yalnızlığın bütün. Küçük, duyuyor musun? Anlamasın kimse, boş ver onları biraz. Sevgi nedir bilmeyen şiirden anlamaz. Küçük, yazıyor musun? Bak kalemlerin var önünde deste deste. Hevesle yanan mum sönmez güçsüz bir nefeste. Sen korkma, yeniden doğar güneş. Tut cebini de ne kaldıysa hatalarından. Koy kendi kendini kendi yerine. Korkarsan adım almaktan ya da tut giderinlere dalmaktan. Sen korkma, yeniden güneş. Tut cebinde ne kaldıysa hatalarından, koy kendi kendini kendi yerine. Korkarsan adım almaktan ya da tut ki derinlere dalmaktan. Sen korkma, yeniden doğar güneş. Sen korkma, yeniden doğar güneş. Sen korkma, yeniden doğar güneş. Tut cebini de ne kaldıysa hatalarından, koy kendi kendini kendi yerine. Korkarsan adım almaktan ya da tut ki derinlere dalmaktan. Sen korkma, yeniden doğar güneş.
2020 has been a year of hardship for everyone all around the world, and it continues to be so. Most of us have had to stay physically apart from the people we love. Some of us have struggled with COVID-19, some of us have lost our loved ones. And on top of all of this, we continue to witness the climate crisis, rights violations, racism, femicide, and many more injustices. Tonight, rather than revisit every year, as the Hrant Dink Award Committee, we honor people and organizations from Turkey and all around the world who raise hope for the future through their actions. Now, let's meet inspirations.
Daniela Carrasco is a symbol of human rights protest in Chile. After she was apprehended, she was found dead in her home. In order to draw attention to this murder, Chilean feminist collective Las Tesis organized the protest with dancing. Women around the world repeated this demonstration with words in their own languages, protesting the killing of women, sexual attacks, and abuses against them. In Indonesia, the young women who founded the metal group, Voice of Bass Prot, were accused of behavior inappropriate to Islam. Despite receiving hundreds of death threats, they continue making music in which they defend gender equality in their society.
Duvarlarda aşırı çirkin yazılar var, cinsiyetçi yazılar.
In Diyarbakır's historic Sur quarter, 4 female painters are covering sexist obscenity on the walls along the streets with their own paintings. Painting over the obscenities with traditional female figures, the women are using art to challenge sexism.
Ders olsun hani insanlara.
In Germany, 71-year-old Irmela Mensa-Schramm is removing neo-Nazi decals on Berlin streets with acetone, digging out Nazi symbols and racist graffiti with a spatula, and covering hateful images with spray paint.
So gut es mir gelingt.
Ich werde immer blockieren.
First thing you need to do is grab your lash curler, curl your lashes, obviously. Then you're going to put them down and use your phone that you're using right now to search up what's happening in China, how they're getting concentration camps.
In her TikTok makeup tutorials, Feroza Aziz in the United States began talking about the Chinese government's oppressive policies in Xinjiang to draw attention to the human rights abuses suffered by the Uyghurs there.
Yet no one is talking about it. Please be aware. Please spread awareness. And yeah. So you can grab your lash curler again.
In Greece, the Support Art Workers Initiative released a video in support of Group Yorum, whose members are still being tried, and more than 120 of whose concerts have been banned. More than 120 artists came together in Athens and performed Kardeş Türküler's Tencere Tava Havası, sending a message of solidarity against censorship and oppression. In Hong Kong, there were mass protests against the suggestion to send apprehended suspects to China to be judged. In Istanbul, the 18th Pride March was carried out online. On a map prepared for the march with the theme #Ben Neredeyim, Where Am I?, participants chose the desired map location, banner, and slogan to demonstrate that they were everywhere. In the United States, the murder of George Floyd by a white policeman gave rise to a widespread protest movement. Black Lives Matter! Drawing attention to raise awareness and monitor changes in the system. Justice! Hands up! Hands up! When it was announced that Turkey would withdraw from the Istanbul Convention, which stipulated the prevention and punishment of all forms of violence against women, women in various places around the country began demonstrating. Despite police violence and prohibitions, women of all ages from every city are demanding their right to life with the slogan, "We will not lose another." Protests began against India's new citizenship law, which granted citizenship to refugees of various religious groups coming from Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh, but denied this right to Muslims. Despite curfews, blockages of telephones and transportation, and arrests of local party members, the protests continue. Hundreds of lawyers and bar association chairs from around Turkey marched towards Ankara in an effort to prevent the enactment of the Multiple Bar Associations Bill that sought to render bar associations ineffective. Despite all the obstructions, the lawyers managed to gather in Ankara, emphasizing the indispensable nature of independence of the judiciary and the rule of law. In Lebanon, in the wake of the explosion in the Beirut port that claimed the lives of around 200 people and left thousands without homes, people from Beirut and other cities joined forces to mobilize aid. Despite the challenging circumstances, the volunteers got swiftly organized to support those whose homes have been destroyed with food and water, cleaned up collapsed buildings and streets, helped to find lost articles, and secure shelter for people left homeless. As we continue to be tested by the pandemic in 2020, people sewing face masks in their homes and in workshops, making face shields for healthcare workers with 3D printers at home, creating networks to meet food and hygiene needs, and empowering the public with music have been lights in the darkness. With respect and gratitude, we salute all the healthcare workers around the world who have faced difficult conditions and countless obstacles in their fight against the pandemic.
Now it's time to give a heartfelt shout out to the inspirations who are watching us from all around the world and celebrate them in solidarity.
Some steps. The hell, what will happen next? You don't want your life to be back. Life you have always faked. Please just don't kill my time. Wash your hands from this crime. Back up your steps, you jerk. We don't care if you don't slay. No one cares, you be down. Down, down, down. With your words you take my time. I don't care if you always lie. Lie, lie, lie. You have always been my Stein. Stand up, please, from your knees. We don't care if you have human ultra microscopic silico volcano coniosis. What is really going on? See what? Oh, no one cares, you be down, down, down, down. With your words, you take my time. Stop and save your time, your time. You must care, you be down. You should stop and save your time, your time. Open your eyes. It's time to start the dance. When the shadows of your life come and still the vibes. When you open your heart, don't cry. begging for the life you like. Empty your mind, cry with no one, cry, cry with no one, cry. Make up some words for a new speech, make up a prose, switch the words, switch, leave them only for word. Give soul to see to word. It's the love that you never recognize. It's the life with a small, very small surprise. Never meant to be someone, never meant to fall apart. Cry with no one, cry, cry with no one, cry.
The O.F.F band from Yerevan reminds us with their songs that we must not lose hope in the face of life's difficulties. We thank them very much for being with us tonight. The individuals and organizations receiving the International Hrant Dink Award are determined by an international independent jury. We'd like to thank our jury members once more for taking part. The 2020 International Hrant Dink Award jury members are
the International Hrant Dink Award Jury of 2020. 2019 International Hrant Dink Award Laureate, women's rights activist Nebahat Akoç. 2019 International Hrant Dink Award Laureate, human rights and environmental rights activist Agnes Kharshing. Film director Emin Alper. Author Tanıl Bora. Legal scholar and activist Cesar Rodriguez Garavito. Film director Robert Gedigyan, lawyer Viviana Krstichevich, children's rights activist Molly Melching, author and diplomat Shafak Pavey, political scientist and author Füsun Üstel, and the president of Hrant Dink Foundation, Rakel Dink.
Every year, the award is presented to two people, groups or organizations, one from Turkey and one from outside of Turkey. First, we'll introduce the award winner from outside of Turkey. And the laureate of 2020 International Hrant Dink Award is
She was born in 1979 to an Egyptian family in Saudi Arabia. At the age of 14, she returned to Egypt with her family. She received her bachelor's degree in Greco-Roman studies at the University of Alexandria and went on to earn her master's in civil society and human rights law at the University of Cairo and the American University of Cairo. Currently, she is earning her master's in community psychology at the American University of Cairo. In 2007, she and 10 other young Egyptian women activists founded a civil society organization called Nazra for Feminist Studies. Through Nazra's activities, her work sheds light on the power relationships within the society by focusing on its impact on the political, social, and economic status of women. Together with the Women Political Participation Academy program, it strove to bring a feminist point of view into unions, political movements, political parties, and local administrations, and a more powerful voice for female candidates within these organizations. With its feminist school, it trains young women and men about their personal freedoms and gender in society. It supports art projects that introduces feminism to various segments of society. It gathers and disseminates the stories of feminists in Egypt. It supports women politicians and right defenders in their struggle against the violence and discrimination they faced in the public and political spheres. Through Nazra and on her own, she documented the human rights violations taking place in Tahrir Square during the Egyptian Revolution in 2011. She worked with local organizations to protect the rights of women who experienced sexual violence and gang rape in Tahrir Square. She coordinated the efforts to provide women with medical, psychological, and legal support. She followed the cases on sexual violence. After the revolution, Nazra started a hotline for women survivors of sexual assault. Following the revolution, she took part in a coalition of women's organizations and played a major role in the inclusion of women's rights in the Egyptian constitution. Together with her colleagues at Nazra and in cooperation with state institutions such as the National Council for Women, the National Council for Human Rights, and the Ministry of Justice, she ensured that women's rights were incorporated into laws and political decisions and had a special unit established within the Egyptian police force to combat violence against women. She brought up the subjects of women's rights violations and violence and discrimination against women on several international platforms, such as the United Nations. In 2015, she was one of the pioneers in the establishment of a coalition of civil society organizations called the Coalition of Women Human Rights Defenders in the Middle East and the Caucus of Women Politicians in the Arab region. In 2011, an investigation against her was launched on the pretext that Nazra had illegally accepted foreign funding and she supports women to obtain irresponsible liberty. In 2016, a travel ban was imposed on her. Because of the asset freeze of Nazra and her assets, Nazra was forced to close its office. Despite all obstacles, she continues to work on the documentation of sexual violence against women and violation of women's rights and make them visible. She works courageously to stop the systematic sexual abuse and attacks aimed at excluding women from the public sphere. She takes part in reinforcing legal, psychological, and medical support networks. For her leading role in bringing sustainability and development to the feminist movement, both in her country of Egypt as well as the Middle East and North Africa in general, Mozn Hassan.
Okay. Thank you all for your presence today.
First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to be a recipient of the Hrant Dink Award. By receiving this award, I'm honorable to join a group of feminists around the world who have received this award before me for their efforts to combat all forms of discrimination against women and other vulnerable groups. Hrant Dink sincerely believed in democracy and human rights to create a world more just and tolerant by communicating through the language of peace and creating spaces for different voices. Hrant Dink was assassinated in January 2007 in the midst of being on trial for violating Article 301 of the Turkish Penal Code, which makes it illegal to insult Turkey, which in this case meant speaking up about the inequalities facing the Armenian community and the need for democracy for Turkey. This award doesn't only honor Hrant Dink's life and his continuous efforts to live up to his ideals. It opens our eyes to how seeking peaceful changes is a struggle that usually comes with a price and jeopardizes our personal, professional, and along with our safety. Given that, I believe that the struggle against gender inequalities, discrimination, oppression, and sexual violence against women is essential, despite personal risks, especially now more than ever, when feminists and women human rights defenders are being violently targeted by authoritarian leaders. Just last month, a Kurdish-Turkish lawyer, Ebru Temtik, has died after 238 days of a hunger strike in demand for a fair trial, a reminder of what it feels like fighting in a world where standing up for one another's rights is in and of itself a dangerous act. Being among you today and receiving this prestigious award, despite ruling dictators from different parts of the world, honor the causes I have been working on, primarily violence against women, human rights defenders, and sexual violence in the country I am from, Egypt, and other Middle East and North Africa countries. Standing up against prejudice, sexism, and discrimination is a continuous struggle with many complexities for a feminist. I believe that throughout history, feminists have not been only fighting patriarchal cultures and practices. They have been working and struggling against patriarchal authoritarian regimes and fundamentalists to create and maintain their movements. Imagine a world full of oppression and injustice against feminists that is complicated by a global crisis such as the COVID-19 pandemic. This crisis imposes further inequalities, leading to the questions regarding the kind of realities feminists are facing while attempting to fight against all forms of discrimination. How can we, in Egypt and other Middle East and North Africa countries, devise new tools or look for similar experiences to contribute working towards a more just world for women and other vulnerable groups? In today's event, we are all participating virtually due to the imposed measures against COVID-19. For you, it may feel like a foreign and harsh experience of leading a constrained life of what is new beginning called the new normals. However, I personally feel more equal to my counterparts. As of May 2016, I have been under a travel ban imposed by national authorities as a punishment for my work as a feminist activist. This travel ban is just a part of many pressuring tools used on me and the organization I founded, Nazra for Feminist Studies. A few years back, I was summoned for an investigation on a case that would have resulted in a life sentence in prison, while Nazra and my personal assets got frozen. For 4 years now, I have been living with the feeling of lockdown and entrapment. I have been prepared to lead a new normal life long ago, which made me think of different tools I can use to combat violence against women in my region and continue my passion for the feminist movement. Being presented with such an honorable award today makes it all worthwhile and reminds me to never lose hope, regardless of the consequences, and to always keep fighting, regardless of the repercussions. So I genuinely thank you from all my heart.
Our sincere congratulations to Mozn Hassan. We celebrate the award with Kalben, who powerfully opposes taboos based on gender roles and insists that everyone, irrespective of race and sexuality, must have the same rights. Kalben performs for us from the Greek Orthodox Theological School of Halki on Heybeliada. The seminary was closed down in 1971, and the demands for it to be reopened continues.
Bütün insanların renklerinden, dillerinden, inanç sistemlerinden, cinsiyetlerinden ve kimliklerinden bağımsız olarak özgür yaşayabildikleri ve özgürce ölebildikleri bir dünyanın özlemiyle. Kendime çarptım, bir anda düştüm anı, yerde düşündüm, kimim ben? Sessizlik, kendime kördüm. Hayal kurmadım, sımsıkı sarıldım, ne varsa kırıldı. Bin utanç oldu, zihnime doldu, ruhu korku sardı. Ah melun başım, hiç duramadım, sabırsız çıkardım. Parçalar elde, merhemim nerede? Bir koyu kan aktı. Şu parlayan yıldızlar sence zengin mi? Söyle Havva, masum Adem senin dengin mi? Ellerin sana çaldı kara senin rengin mi? Sen yılanla eş, al hançerle deş, elmayı üleştir. Kovdu cennetten, hep senin suçun. Göğsünde izi, kanlı bir gülsün. İpte sallanan özgür aklını söyle kim ne yapsın? Onay bekleme, şefkat isteme. Bu umman senin, yalanı dinleme. Yüz güzel kızım, güçlü kolların evreni bir sarsın. Koş güzel kızım, ardına bakma, eski dünya yansın. Eski dünya yansın. Karanlık bir yerde bul beni. Kaybettiğin gün gibi bekliyorum. Üstümde bir başkasının ceketi. Yine de tanırsın biliyorum. Tanıdık bir yerde bul beni. Kulu'da buluşalım. Kalpsizin biri demişsin hani. Bari yorgun dargın bakışalım. Sokaklarda ayak sesleri. Özlemek artık yasaktır. Sildik hafızadan bizi. Fotoğraflarımız kayıptır. Hiç anlatmadım sana oysa. Daha çok hikayemiz vardı. O gece sormuştun ya bana. Uzaklığın en büyük yaraydı. Yaraya gülümsedim. Her sabah yarayı önemsedim. Yarayı hazırladım. Gözlere yarayı temizledim. Yarayı büyütmedim. Hayalinle kendimi küçümsedim. Denize baktım ömürlerce. Tuzunu ezberledim. Yarayı öptüm ellerinden. Yarayı dinledim. Benden onda da var dedi. Yarasını sevdim. Elini uzattın hep havada kalan en güzel hayalimiz. Yaramızı unutturup yarayı kapatan aşk yaradan da derin. Elini uzattın havada kalan en güzel hayalimiz. Yaramızı unutturup yarayı kapatan aşk yaradan da derin, yaradan da derin. unutturur yarayı kapatan aşk yaradan da derin.
Now it's time to announce the laureate from Turkey. And the laureate from Turkey for 2020 International Hrant Dink Award is...
Born in Paris in 1957, he received his bachelor's degree in business from Middle East Technical University and his master's in economics from Manchester University. While he was working on his doctorate in the United States, his father died and he returned to Turkey. In 1983, he and his friends founded İletişim Publishing in order to support the return to democracy and civilian rule after the September 12th coup through popular publishing. The Marmara earthquake was a turning point in his life. He supported civic networks created in the region in the wake of the earthquake. In the period that followed, he played an important role in the civil society activities that were newly developing in the country, taking part in the creation of several civil society organizations and their work. In 2002, together with people from the business circles and civil society, he founded Anadolu Kültür in an effort to spread and scale up culture and arts events and to advocate cultural diversity and rights. He participated in projects to support local initiatives and ran projects to strengthen ties between organizations working locally and the cultural arts operators, as well as civil society organizations in Europe. In the 1990s, to help bind the wounds left by the fighting in Turkey's eastern and southeastern provinces and build a culture of dialogue and peace through arts, he played a pioneering role in Anadolu Kültür's first project, the establishment of the Diyarbakır Art Center. The Kars Art Center, also with Anadolu Kültür's support, became a cultural meeting space not only for Turkey, but for Armenia, Georgia, and Azerbaijan as well. During negotiations for Turkey's membership in the European Union, he concentrated on projects to establish ties between European and Anatolian cities, supporting artistic work by Anatolian youth and long-term working relationships between leading figures in the world of culture. Depot, founded in a former Ottoman tobacco depot in 2008, is an independent art space that hosts the work of many artists with an emphasis on pluralism. After the 2011 Van earthquake, he held photography workshops. He also created projects and published books for Yazidi and Syrian refugee children living under harsh conditions. He has brought together hundreds of artists as well as their works of art in an effort to contribute to the opening of the sealed border between Turkey and Armenia, which have had no diplomatic relationship since 1993. He has taken part in projects to protect, document, and restore the cultural heritage of Anatolia. He has devoted his life to the building of a pluralistic, democratic society. He has advocated dialogue and multiculturalism. He has shown that civil society initiatives, through culture and arts, can strengthen relationships between peoples. Even from his cell at the Istanbul Silivri High Security Prison, where he has been imprisoned since November 1st, 2017, he has remained productive and continues to bring people together in his absence. And because of all, that's Osman Kavala. It is a great honor for me to have been deemed worthy of the Hrant Dink Award. I would like to express my gratitude to the jury members. During these days in the prison cell, I do feel the need for Hrant's companionship more than ever. Thanks to this award, I will feel much closer to him. Unlike Hrant, unlike the rights defenders, some of whom I had the privilege to know, I am not a person who dedicated his life to the struggle for rights and freedoms. However, in my own undertakings, I have always strived to follow the principle of equal citizenship and made efforts to raise awareness about human rights and minority rights. I do believe that prejudices across different segments of the society, as well as people living in different countries, can be overcome through using our reason, engaging in dialogue, and listening to one another. In my humble opinion, one of the contributions of arts and literature to humanity is to help people acquire these skills. Together with my colleagues at Anadolu Kultur, we have undertaken a number of projects which I believe have served for this very purpose. Yet regrettably, it is quite disappointing to see that some of the initiatives I put efforts in could not make the intended impact, or rather to see that the recent developments did override their impact. It gives us great pain to see young people who would easily become close friends under different circumstances and in an environment of equality and freedom killing each other in the southeast, Iraq and Syria. It grieves me to see that our common cultural heritage, the Aegean and the Mediterranean, cannot be shared and that our border with Armenia still remains sealed. Still, I do not fall into despair. The main source of my optimism derives from young people, artists, intellectuals I got to know during my trips to many different provinces, including Diyarbakır, Batman, Van, Thessaloniki, Beirut, and Yerevan. They are the ones who believe in the shared wisdom and conscience of humanity. They are the ones who advocate peace and equality. Lately, the most burning issue for many of our citizens like myself is the erosion of the rule of law, one of the main pillars of the Republic. Along with the state of emergency declared after the July 15th coup attempt, as was also the case in Ergenekon, Sledgehammer, and KCK trials, the instrumentalization of the judiciary for the purposes of punishing certain chosen individuals and groups has become a legitimate practice. The state of emergency was officially lifted, yet the climate it created still prevails. The judiciary does not act in accordance with the legal norms, but rather in line with the political priorities and instructions of the government. And this situation is perceived as normal. The rule of establishing the offender on the basis of an objective examination of concrete facts is also an imperative for rational thinking. When this rule is not applied, the perception of reality can be easily manipulated. Without disregarding the fact that the majority of unlawful practices and rights violations are directed against people who are not publicly known, I would like to remind a number of incidents that took place recently. Selahattin Demirtas was rearrested on new charges that were grounded on the exact same evidence used in the investigation file, under which his release had been ordered following the ECHR judgment. Following the reversal of his aggravated life imprisonment, Ahmet Altan was convicted with yet another severe penalty, this time on charges of aiding and abetting an organization. After his release, he was rearrested through a court order that overstepped its mandate. Diyarbakır Mayor Seljuk Mızraklı was arrested based on an informant's witness statement and sentenced to 9 years and 4 months in prison. Journalists Barış Terkoglu, Barış Pehlivan, Murat Ağrel, Ferhat Çelik, Muesser Yıldız, Aydın Keser, and Hulya Kılınç were arrested due to their coverage of an information that had already been publicly available. The Progressive Lawyers Association chair Seljuk Kozakçılı and its lawyer members were rearrested immediately after their release. The panel of judges which gave the release order was disbanded, and the lawyers were sentenced to decades in prison, solely based on the statements of the informant and the anonymous witness. The most painful of all is to watch the passing of those who part with life in protest against the unlawfulness. The failure to take steps for such a long time concerning the fair trial demands of the lawyers Ebru Timtik and Aytaç Ünsal is not only an indication of the erosion of legal norms, but also of the value attributed to human life. The judiciary's adherence to universal legal norms is also crucial for bringing together people of different thoughts and faiths around shared ethical values. When this does not happen, unlawful practices become ordinary, and it brings along perceived normality. This being the case, people do only react when they themselves, their friends and relatives, or those sharing the same faith, face injustice. The attitude also poses an obstacle to reckoning with the real crimes committed in the past. Nevertheless, I have not lost my hope, since there is a considerable number of people who object to getting used to this situation. Nowadays, both the political actors and civil society organizations seem to better understand the fact that the independence of the judiciary and its adherence to basic legal norms is the first and foremost requisite of democracy. In my particular case, politicians advocating different opinions as well as columnists raising their objections to all that happened to me helped me become more optimistic about the possibility of a genuine judiciary reform in our country. If the era of inventing fictitious crimes is closed, I do hope that it will be possible to create the circumstances of peaceful coexistence. I extend my warmest regards to the Hrant Dink Foundation, former and new friends of Hrant.
Our heartfelt congratulations to Osman Kavala. Osman Kavala, a person who has added value and goodness to this country, has been deprived of his freedom for 1,050 days. Here, in the 23.5 Site of Memory Quest for Justice room, we hope that justice will be served and Osman Kavala will regain his freedom as soon as possible. We celebrate the award with Armenia's Dialog Project, who bring together traditional music with an innovative style. We're in the Atlantis Civilization Room in the 23.5 Site of Memory. Here, you find the story of the Armenian children's camp in Tuzla, where Hrant Dink spent his childhood. He worked hard with the other children to build the camp, and it's where he met his wife, Rakel Dink. It was a camp that welcomed hundreds of Armenian children coming from various parts of Anatolia, living far from their families. The camp was later seized by the government and then partially returned after months of protests by diverse and large groups of people in Turkey. We desire a world where ancient civilizations and the environment are respected, where those civilizations are not erased but revealed, and their knowledge is shared down through the generations, a world where differences can coexist and live together. Now, Rakel Dink will join us from a historic Armenian site with a song that her husband Hrant Dink loved so much.
Yes, pulpul mi pununem sarine. Sirdes poce, sirdes hoce, meçlik arine. Vay le le le, vay le le le le, vay le le le le. Le le vay le le. Sirdes poce, sirdes hoce, meçlik arine. Sirdes kulağım gıda, elurasem yer keres. Sirdes kulağım gıda, elurasem yer keres. Vay le le le, vay le le le le, vay le le le le. Le le vay le le. Sirdes poce, sirdes hoce, meçlik arine. Yıkım üstüne yıkım, elem üstüne elem, keder üstüne keder. Hep dert, hep zulüm, nereye kadar? Ölüm, acı, gözyaşı ve yaz. Hep kin, hep nefret, şiddet nereye kadar, ne zamana kadar? Bu yazgı değişmeli, karanlık yerine ışığı seçmeli. Adaleti, dürüstlüğü, merhameti isteyelim. Sevgiyi, saygıyı giyinelim. Hep birlikte yaşayalım, yaşatalım.
It's our tradition to end each year's International Hrant Dink Award ceremony with a video from the 2006 ceremony in Hamburg, in which Hrant Dink received the Henry Nannen Press Award.
O ülke karanlık bir ülke. Aydınlanıyor ve biz orayı aydınlatmak için çaba sarf ediyoruz.
Vielen Dank, Hrant Dink und
On behalf of the Hrant Dink Foundation, we thank you all very much for being with us tonight. On a night on which we overcame physical boundaries through the inspiration, hope, and solidarity we draw from the rights movements around the world, we wish you all a good night. Happy birthday, Hrant Dink. The world is a much better place because of you and your ability to show us the way to a life of unity and solidarity.
Bastarana, bastaron, bastarana, bastaron,
Arto Tunçboyacıyan, bana Mr. Avantgard Folk diyorlar. Sizler de elektronik aşık değil. Ben hip-hopçu olmaya çalışmıyorum. Topu koydular Santra'ya. Aman akbarik dediler, bu bir son dakika. Bize gol lazım dediler. Bir çaktım da top 90'da. Neyse bu bir hayat tecrübesi sonunda. Hayat dedim geldi birden aklıma. Hani bu nefrettekiyle yaşayanlar var ya, bıkmadınız mı? Bıkmadınız mı? Bak sevgi neler yaratıyor. Hrant akbarik sonsuz yaşıyor. Bir de böyle garip yaratıklar var ya, sana benzeyen politikacılar. Dünyamızı karıştırıyorlar. Sonra da Charlie'nin melekleri oluyorlar. Bu şarkının dansı da var. Çok da güzel melodisi var. Sözlerinde devamı da var. İşte geldi. Hop.
Bastarana, bastarona, bastarana, bastarona, bastarana, bastarona, bastarana, bastarona, bastarana, bastarona, bastarana,
Hani yaratıkların en akıllısıyız ya, bana sorsan en aptalıyız ya. Neden aptal dedim biliyor musun? Bir kağıt parçasına paralar koyduk, değer verdik. Şimdi de yarattığımızın kölesi olduk, birbirimizi yiyoruz. Nedir bu? Para, para, para, para, para. Hani bu doğayı seven var ya, mevsimleri unutanlar var ya, 12 ay domates yiyen var ya, hani milletini zehirli tarımla boğan milliyetçiler var ya. Yine geldi o güzel melodi, dansı da unutma, sürpriz var.
Bastarana, bastarona, bastarana, bastarona.
Happy birthday Hrant akbarik, Zunun Tunçboyacıyan Hrant akbarik, iyi ki doğdun Hrant akbarik. Happy birthday.
Bağlardan, be tutu bağlardan, be tutu bağlardan.